Bruges in Belgium is one of the world's great cities to visit, with the best preserved collection of medieval buildings in all of Europe. This is a beautiful place. In this detailed video, we are presenting all the information you'll need for a complete visit to Bruges, bringing you throughout the historic center on various walking routes, consider places to eat and drink, and then we'll take a boat ride through the lovely canals of this amazing city, finally into some museums featuring paintings, sculpture, and historic exhibits. Then we'll have a look inside some of the huge, impressive Gothic churches of town. You can easily explore Bruges by walking because it's rather compact, only about 1 square kilometer in size. You could also take a tour in a horse carriage or maybe rent a bicycle and pedal around, especially attractive when seen from a canal boat. There are few cities in Europe of equal interest as Bruges, Belgium, with its precious heritage of the Middle Ages that has preserved so much of its medieval character. A city of sleepy streets, ancient buildings, and picturesque canals. And it's a lively place to go shopping. Enjoy some great meals sitting at an outdoor restaurant, fine dining, or just a quick bite washed down with the national beverage, beer of course, and appreciate some of the world's best art. Then find some bargains at a flea market. We'll bring you to streets lined with shops and cafes and then get you off the beaten track on those little side alleys. High towers rise above several of the major churches that date back to the Gothic and earlier periods. You'll enjoy the stained glass and old architecture, then step into several of the history museums. Some of them in former palaces with dramatic architecture, looking like an old stone fortress. Perhaps the canals are the most beautiful sights to see in Bruges, and we're going to show you many of them. The boat docks are just a block away from the main market square. As we walk north to south, east to west throughout the city in our complete tour, a quick outline on the map shows the route that we'll be taking, walking out in both directions from the central mark, next heading south to charming plazas, parks, a lake, then north to the windmills and through a quiet residential neighborhood. Starting our walking tours from the main marketplace, called the Markt, or as locals call it, the Markt. This is the most popular gathering place in town. You will come back to this plaza time and again during your visit because it's in the center with wonderful sights all around it. Especially the most famous building in town, the symbol of the city. It's the Belfry, which dates back to the 13th century and is 83 meters high, with the market hall's courtyard at its base where you can purchase a ticket to the staircase that will lead you 366 steps to the top. It's protected by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. In the center stands a colossal monument with a statue of 2 heroes who were guild masters and leaders of the citizens of Bruges in the massacre of the French garrison in 1302, which helped the Flemish gain their freedom from France. Naturally, you will see lots of bicycles in Belgium. Like the nearby Netherlands, they love getting around on 2 wheels, and some of them are quite innovative, such as the ever-popular cargo bike. Another way to get around town is taking a horse carriage ride tour. You can find lots of them right here waiting for you at the Markt. Of course, the best way to get around is walking in this pedestrian-friendly city. You do always want to be alert for those bicycles whizzing by because they don't make much noise and they can go pretty quickly, so pay attention. Every Wednesday morning there's an outdoor produce market selling all kinds of foods. From the local farms you get cheeses, fruits and vegetables, freshly baked bread, purchased directly from the baker, rotisserie chickens, a big variety of locally grown flowers. Open from 8 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. It's mostly for the locals who live in the historic center, but always a delight for visitors to see this colorful action. Come early before sunrise and you can watch them setting up and maybe have a chat with some of the customers. How would you describe Bruges?
than Bruges as I'm born here.
Well, you've seen a lot of changes in Bruges.
There are no changes.
I mean, among the people and the tourism.
Yes. In Greece, there is more tourists than before, yeah. But here in Bruges, we love the tourists because they come to Bruges for art, for everything. They are relaxed. So we love the tourists here.
For the history.
For the history.
For the scenery. Just could you describe this market?
For us as centrum people, as people who are living really in the center of the city, it's very necessary and very important for us. Because this is organic food.
So instead of a supermarket, you'd rather come here?
Oh yeah, never go to a supermarket. No, never for vegetables, yes.
And can I ask, what do you do? Or what did you do?
I'm a painter.
A painter?
Professional painter,
An
yes.
artist?
Artist, yes.
Oh, amazing.
You have to do something in life, eh?
Yeah, sure. So that keeps you busy?
Keep me busy.
So
yes.
you never retire?
Never retire, no.
No, you love to paint.
I love to paint, yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Really appreciate it.
Nice talking.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Let's consider the dining options here at the Markt, which has got more than a dozen restaurants all around it in colorful 17th century houses, with the general consensus that these are obviously touristic places. So let the buyer beware, but don't just dismiss them all out of hand. Because of this great setting, you can sit outdoors, have a decent meal, or at least drink a beer. And if you're just eating mussels and fries or a pizza, what can go wrong? And you might be pleasantly surprised by other decent items on the menus. But most of all, it's this grand setting, a perfect place for people watching and enjoying the fantastical architecture all around you. If you'd like a simple snack of fries and soda, they're served up at this kiosk right on the square. Then sit down on the bench enjoying a budget meal al fresco. You can find many much better restaurants elsewhere in town, but none of them have this splendid location. During this program, we are walking all over town, showing you many other locations where there are lots of restaurants. As we venture out from this central market square, we'll also see the canals with some beautiful reflections of those historic old buildings. Shopping streets, little cafes, quiet side lanes, parks offering a peaceful green oasis, historic plazas, and picturesque neighborhoods. We'll see more of these shopping streets later, but now we are starting our walking tour out from the market square, following the red line for our first walk. Exiting the Markt South End, we begin along Wollestraat, where you will see some locals going about their business. The street has lots of fascinating shops, the usual for souvenirs, clothing. There's restaurants and cafes and little side streets here, and this ancient portico is on the backside of the halls that are supporting the Belfry Tower, along one of the oldest streets in town. Here you'll find little corner bars for a fast thirst quencher, jewelry shops, and chocolate shops. We reach the bridge of St. John Nepomuk at the end and a series of the finest canals of Bruges. The bridge crosses the Dever Canal, which is the only place in town preserving the route of the original main river running through Bruges. That canal extends to the Rosary Quay, which is one of the most photographed spots in the city. Fire up your Instagram for this location, especially beautiful in the early morning light. We're visiting Bruges, one of the most beautiful towns in the world, and this location with the scenery behind me is the most astonishing sight you might ever see in your travels, especially when you get up early in the morning, just around sunrise. It's nice and quiet at that time of day. During the midday, this town gets really busy. But here we have got a supreme sight with the great belfry of Bruges in the background and reflections in the canals. The same canal continues northeast as the Grinneray, one of those very beautiful and famous waterways of the city. Close to the center, yet quiet and peaceful, with some hotels along its banks. We are only 300 meters away from the Markt, And yet here the atmosphere is completely different. It's quiet, peaceful, it's not even touristic, there's no horse carriages going by, very few shops along the way. It's just a great spot to be. You can walk along it in one direction on the beautiful sidewalk right along the banks of the canal that gives you lovely views, and then at the end just turn around and walk back the same way, leading to a broader section of Dever Canal with a green park along its bank that hosts a lively crafts and flea market every weekend and public holiday from mid-March to mid-September. It's open from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. Goods for sale include the usual assortment of old ceramics, some jewelry. There are some handmade crafts for sale here. And there's souvenirs, of course. You are always welcome to try a little bargaining, especially if you're buying several items from one vendor. But don't expect to find an undiscovered painting by Rembrandt or other underpriced works of great value. It's mostly tried and true used merchandise. You might even walk away with a fantastic bargain while enjoying the thrill of that hunt, with many tour boats going by. It's more than just a place to shop in this beautiful setting, and the locals are all quite friendly, so it's a place to strike up a conversation. At the top end of the park, we saw a two-wheeled rally. These local kids are enjoying a big group bicycle ride. Bicycles are so popular here with the locals because the town is relatively small and flat, so it's easy to get around on two wheels, especially if you are kids on the way to school in the morning. A block away, there's a small restaurant plaza whose name translates as the Tanner's Square, where they used to work on leather. Now it's a popular terrace for outdoor dining surrounded by those picturesque medieval-style buildings. Nearby is the oldest fish market in Belgium, still selling fresh fish in the mornings from Wednesday till Saturday. In the afternoon, sometimes there's vendors selling handmade goods. The neoclassic building rests on 126 Tuscan columns. From here, we walk a couple of blocks to Philipsstokstraat, which has some excellent restaurants, always with a large supply of varieties of beer, in traditional brick buildings with those Flemish gables. That connects up with another major street, Vlamingstraat, with shops and traditional old buildings, and along the way we pass the Municipal Theater with a few little tree-shaded plazas and outdoor tables, leading us to another of the many historic sites of the city, Jan van Eyckplein, which is now dedicated to that famous painter who lived in Bruges for the last 15 years of his life. In those days, this plaza was the most important trading center in all of Europe because Bruges played a central role in the distribution of trading and merchandise from the south of Europe and from the north of Europe. The toll house collected money from all the merchants, and the Burgers Lodge was headquarters for the merchants and international elite traders. Nowadays, it's a quiet, peaceful place with a small outdoor restaurant. The only boats coming through now are filled with a cargo of tourists. And in the morning, it's very quiet and tranquil with the golden light. You'd never realize that this had been the very busy, almost chaotic merchant trading center. It was the main harbor where important traders and merchants assembled from all over Europe. You could hear every imaginable language, a tangle of people loading and unloading processed goods on the busy docks. It was a time of great prosperity and wealth. They were dealing in Dutch flax and hemp, English wool, Spanish leather, Italian silk, wines from Portugal, Greece, and France, hardware from Germany. This canal was the main harbor where all the action happened, called Spiegelray, which means mirror because of the calm reflections that are often here. This was the global headquarters for the Hanseatic League, Europe's main trading network. In the 15th century, the Duke of Burgundy established one of his courts here, luring even more people to move to Bruges, which finally swelled to a population of about 60,000 people, one of Europe's largest cities in those days. Another of the main canals extends beyond this bridge, and we are going to take a stroll along it. It's another beautiful location in the city. Trading goods were also shipped through the city on this canal. The golden age for Bruges was in the 14th and 15th centuries. Because there were so many wealthy people here, they moved into majestic city mansions and spent fortunes on decorating their residences. This brought in many artists and craftsmen from all over Europe to do their work here, organized in guilds or unions that ensured that all of the products were of the highest quality. With that powerful economy, Bruges also became a manufacturing center, employing many thousands of people in textile production, enhanced by their monopoly on English wool. But later in the 15th century, the economy of Bruges collapsed. Several problems. The river silted up, the mud prevented boats from coming in for trading. The political leaders had problems with Bruges, and so they left and they brought the business with them, moving it to Antwerp. During the next several centuries, there were no further developments in Bruges, which is a good thing for us today because it preserved all of these historic sites. We've reached the Augustine Bridge, which is where the canal changes names to become the Augustine Canal, named after an Augustinian monastery that was here centuries ago but is gone now. As we continue walking along this canal, we come upon another bridge, Fleming's. And notice the beautiful cobblestone paving. Well, that takes a lot of work to get it so perfect, often involving the use of some heavy machinery. Belgium is the land of cobblestones. During the Middle Ages, Bruges was a fortified city with a protective wall running around it, which has survived here and there in town in various fragments, such as along this canal. Just beyond that, we stroll along a delightful and quiet side lane that will lead us back over to the canal again, protected by the Madonna, as we see often in town. We have reached Ezelbrug, which is about the halfway point of this canal, which now begins to get more and more narrow and still picturesque. A quiet neighborhood with very few tourists, except me. There is a variety of canals here in Bruges. It's really quite lovely when you come across these still small canals in the residential neighborhoods. There's no boat traffic and sometimes there's no sidewalk next to it, but it's very pleasant when you cross the bridge. You can have a look down the canal and get a nice view. The horse carriages are coming in from their stables heading to the market square. The street leads us past the Church of St. James, originally built around the year 1240 and expanded later in the Gothic style, with later Baroque enhancements to the church interior. This rounded corner at St. Jacobstraat has one of the nicest collections of old Flemish buildings in town, with a picturesque little outdoor cafe serving that ever-popular Belgian beer, Duvel, on a street that has several hotels, shops, private homes, restaurants, and one of the narrowest alleys in town that dates back to the Middle Ages, connecting straight through to Naldenstraat on the other side. There used to be a butter factory here. Next to it on St. Jacobstraat is a fascinating restaurant with a big garden courtyard out back.
So we're here in the Republic. We're not the traditional Belgian kitchen. We try to be a little bit more alternative. We have a lot of vegan and vegetarian options.
You're close to the center, but you're not in the center. You're
Correct.
3 blocks away from the center.
3 blocks away. And
So it's a different atmosphere.
It is indeed.
And so is your clientele a mix of local and visitor?
Yes, it is. It's a nice balance for the tourists and local, young, old. Everybody's welcome here.
Try the beet salad with tomatoes and onions. Or how about nachos Republica? Maybe haddock with sweet potato cream and white beans. It's more than just a restaurant because this historic building functions as a meeting place and community hub for locals, hosting events and workshops and exhibitions, forming a creative hub that focuses on innovation with the Grand Café inside the building, where residents, tourists, and entrepreneurs meet and connect. This same street continues a few more blocks with more restaurants and shops and beautiful old buildings until it reaches the Mark Square at the end of the road. But it's one of those side streets a little off the beaten track that you might not be aware of and you could easily skip it. But it is worth exploring. It leads back to the marketplace, and next to that we find a busy outdoor dining terrace, popular with locals as much as with visitors, surrounded by old Flemish gabled buildings. It shows that when you get 100 feet away from the Mark Square, you dive right into the local culture. Also open in the morning when it's much less busy. Across the street, we have another popular corner that used to be an egg market, but now it's a wide sidewalk with restaurant tables. Eiermarkt is a lively neighborhood that extends along for several blocks. There are waffle shops, chocolate, and several kinds of gelaterias. Eat while standing up or have a seat, and watch the bicycles buzzing by these colorful buildings. This is also the beginning of one of the main streets that goes through the center of town. We've gone from St. Jacobstraat to the Egg Market, and now we're going to walk along Geldmoenstraat and Steenstraat, the two main shopping streets of Bruges. This street name, Geldmoenstraat, translates to Money Mint Street, hinting at its past as a center for financial activities. And in the morning, it's a main route used by kids to bicycle to school. Pedaling along side by side, you see that bicycling can be a very sociable activity, carrying on a conversation as you glide along. One of the best-known shops on the street is the Boterhaus, in business since 1933. It's a small but packed quality shop featuring hundreds of cheeses from small local farmers and from all over the world, along with stone-baked farmer's bread and the very best of Spanish hams. A great place to purchase the fixings for a picnic or a meal back in your room. The shop fronts along this street and throughout Bruges are so attractive, they're like works of art in themselves. Even when the stores are closed, it's enjoyable to take a stroll along these streets and observe the building architectures, each one different than the next, and the artistic designs of the shop window displays. There are several small supermarkets in the center with a good choice of ready-to-eat meals, sandwiches and salads, all kinds of beverages. You can dine inexpensively in Bruges if you choose. And now this same street changes names to Noordzandstraat, with many more shops down here, including a Jack Wolfskin selling fine outdoor clothing. While the main streets are quite enjoyable with their old buildings and modern shops, the side streets also have a lot of appeal, so be sure to get off the main drag and go down these little streets, such as this one that would lead you all the way back to the market square. As you walk along it, you'll see other streets branching off from it, forming a little bit of a maze that's really quite fun to walk in. You're not going to get lost. Kemmelstraat is another great side lane to discover because here you will see a famous beer pub with 300 different kinds of beer, including 5 of them on tap. This little pedestrian side street has a lovely restaurant where I had lunch. Flemish stew with a beer. What's the food?
The food, we have Flemish food, French food,
Many beers.
a lot of beers.
And
good
wine.
beers, and wine.
And the street is a beautiful pedestrian
Yeah,
street.
you
No
can-
cars.
No cars, you
No
can
cars.
drive over here.
What's the name of the street?
De Dweerstraat.
Inside is a large dining area and bar and rooms out back, and a small hotel upstairs. The street is just 1 block long, stretching 140 meters, and then it extends and changes names. Another cozy little lane with restaurants and a hotel. That brings us to the other main shopping street that we're exploring, Steenstraat, lined with a great variety of items for sale in these stores, and there are restaurants and there's some hotels along the way. Even if you are not going to buy something, you would love some window shopping along this street. The architecture and displays are lovely to see. As we stroll along, this is a good time for me to share some travel tips about how to get the most out of your visit to Bruges. You might get tired because there is so much to see, so you want to pace yourself. Get an early start for the day when it's cool and not crowded, and then take a break, sit down at a cafe for a coffee or refreshments. The most important travel tip that provides all the advice you need to make your visit a success is stay here for several days. With that, you don't have to worry about checking off all the items on your list because you'll have plenty of time to see everything. I stayed for 3 nights thinking, well, that was plenty, but in hindsight, I would have liked to have a 4th night. Yes, 4 days in Bruges can be easily filled with so many wonderful activities. After all, this is one of the greatest destinations in Europe. That provides time for a side trip to the beach town of Ostend on the North Shore, just 15 minutes away by train. Then get back to town, continuing your explorations. There are some who suggest stay in Bruges as a base and make day trips to Ghent and Antwerp. However, that's a bad idea. Ghent and Antwerp are fantastic cities that are each worth staying for 2 or 3 days. Our walk leads us to Simon Stephenplein, a renowned Flemish mathematician now surrounded by wonderful outdoor cafes. If you really do not have much time in your visit to Belgium, you could stay in Brussels and visit Bruges as a day trip. It's only 1 hour away. Get an early start, stay all day into the evening, and then return to Brussels. With careful planning, knowing where you want to go and what to see, you could get a lot out of 1 day. When doing your research for the trip, be sure to have a look at the official tourist information website. There you can find maps with routes for walking tours, along with a lot of information about historic sites, restaurants, hotel accommodations, and tours, all of which could easily take 3 days. We're now going to explore the south part of Bruges. This is the lake called Minnewater, but more affectionately known as the Lake of Love. The lush atmosphere makes this place the ultimate romantic hotspot, with mysterious trees, an abundance of greenery, and medieval ruins. With that tall gunpowder tower that owes its name to the gunpowder that was once stored there. The lake was created as a reservoir back in the 13th century to regulate the water level of the river. In that way, prevent the city from getting flooded. Have a stroll through the Lake of Love Park with beautiful cobblestone pathways and bicycle paths, but just be careful going over the bridge. In the old days, the park was a vast grassy plain used as a bleach field until the beginning of the 20th century. Women used to spread the washed linen there to be bleached by the sun and smell fresh and fragrant. There's a restaurant in the park in this traditional Flemish-style brick building with the gables, serving traditional Belgian cuisine, with seating indoors or outdoors with a view of the lake. After leaving the park, you come upon this classic postcard scene of Bruges, with swans gliding beneath the willow trees. Their natural diet of water plants is supplemented by the caretakers who treat them to mixed grains, lettuce, spinach, or Belgian endives. The government takes good care of their flock of 100 swans. The canal ends at this lock house that was part of the hydraulic engineering of the lake. Tour boats reach the end of their route here, turning around to go back to town. When you cross over this bridge and enter through the open gateway, you have stepped into another world. This is the Behaenhof, which had been a residence for single ladies, people who were religiously devout but did not take the eternal vows of a nun, and lived a free and independent life in these tranquil surroundings. A peaceful green oasis surrounded by about 30 white houses dating from the 16th through the 18th centuries, although a community was first established here in the 13th century. Today, it's occupied by some single ladies from Bruges and some nuns of the Benedictine order, a tradition that's found throughout Belgium and the Netherlands. This site is included on the UNESCO World Heritage List. At the north end stands the Church of St. Elizabeth, founded in 1245 and rebuilt in 1605, with an interior in the Baroque style. For seclusion from the bustle of the world, it would be difficult to find a spot to surpass this, with an expanse of smooth green turf, lofty elms, and entourage of whitewashed houses. Just in front we have the Horsehead Drinking Fountain to refresh those carriages still passing along the street. Nearby we reach the Halveman Brewery you are welcome to visit. They have an outdoor beer garden featuring their own brews. It's a family-friendly place where you can have a beer along with a light meal. And you can step inside and do a tour of the brewery. Right away we enter into the brew house where they brew all the beer. The big kettles are filled with hot water to which they add malt. The liquid's then pumped into other kettles for further processing. There are 220 steps on the route through the brewery, sometimes quite steep, with the reward of a grand view of the old town from the open-air rooftop. Halveman is a family business with a tradition stretching back through 6 generations to 1856 when it was founded, continually adapting to changing consumer demands, developing many different flavors of beer. The brewery has grown into one of the most popular attractions in Bruges, with about 100,000 visitors every year. You pay an admission fee, and that includes a glass of beer at the end. Beer is sent through an underground pipeline to the bottling plant 3 kilometers away. Halveman is on Waldplein, another delightful outdoor tree-shaded plaza with tables for the nearby restaurants, also with benches for the public. On the north edge of Waldplein, we've got Wallstraat, another one of those charming cobble lanes lined with shops and restaurants, and there's some horse carriages going by. Part of a lovely neighborhood with other attractive streets, including a very unusual one. Stoofstraat looks to be very narrow. It's only 31 inches wide at its narrowest point. That's about 80 centimeters, making this the narrowest street in all of Bruges. It used to be part of the red light district, with a bathhouse where wealthy men came to bathe and enjoy some company. Perhaps the narrow width offered some privacy for those activities. And then you pop out onto a wide and busy street. This one is quite long, extending about 600 meters, where it seems like everybody is out here to stand up on the cobbled paving and eat something. Waffles, ice cream, chocolate, beer, burgers, and fries, the perfect Belgian combination. You stand and eat because they don't have public benches, and many of the eateries are for takeaway only. Belgian chocolates. Perhaps this country is most famous for those delicious stuffed pralines, which makes a good energy snack and a nice gift to bring home. It seems that horse carriages have the right of way, so be careful and give them space to get by. While strolling along here, I noticed a pampered pooch in his protected bicycle basket. It's a pedestrian street, but bicycles are allowed everywhere. This lane leads to the Duke's Palace Hotel, where I had the good fortune to stay for 3 nights in my visit to Bruges. It was a bit of a splurge on 5-star deluxe, but I figured, as long as I'm in Bruges, one of the great cities, I want to be as comfortable as possible. They even have a large garden with a cafe terrace. I had a chance to talk with the front office manager.
So this is Hotel Duke's Palace. We're in the city center of Bruges with a lovely garden of 3,000 square meters and all the facilities you can expect from a 5-star superior. So once coming to Bruges, we always recommend to take 2 days. Why? Because touristically seen, it's divided in 2 major areas. We have the area around the Market Square, which is the most central square with the iconic Belfry Tower. The Market Square is located on the 200 meters from the hotel. A second area is located near the convent. And next to the convent we have a Lake of Love, of course, where you can find the iconic swans.
And the hotel is in between those 2 areas.
Yes, indeed. The hotel is somewhat in between, which gives us an excellent location, of course.
Among the various benefits of staying at a lovely hotel is the excellent breakfast that you're going to be getting at the buffet. All kinds of cooked foods, breads, fruits, beverages. Power up to get your day started with a high level of service and comfort. Then if you get out very early, you're going to have most of the town to yourself. Here we are in the Burg Square, which for centuries has been the political center of Bruges. And yet this morning, it's practically empty. Crown Plaza on the Burg is another one of the highest rated hotels in town. When you get up at sunrise, it is never crowded. Here's another fine hotel in the center, the 4-star Castleberg. The buses are running already, but looks like nobody got on board yet. Oh, you can stroll through these empty streets and have the whole city to yourself. I decided to take advantage of my early start to this day with a taxi ride to the north end of town to see the windmills and then walk back into the center. So the taxi ride went very smoothly with no other cars on the road. There was no traffic to slow us down. This turned into a streamlined city tour passing dozens of the old historic buildings in the golden light of dawn. While we drive along heading to the windmills, I can share a few more tips with you. About the seasonality and timing, it's best to avoid the summer if you possibly can, because it can get very crowded. This video was filmed in September, and that was fine. Spring and fall are the best times to be here. Make your reservations in advance for a hotel that's within the historic center. Walking's the best way to get around with so many sights to see. Wear comfortable shoes. Do that canal tour boat ride. It's fun to walk around the city at night. We're seeing it here at sunrise. It's easier in the evening when the canals and buildings are lit up. Consider purchasing a Bruges Musea card for admission to all the major museums. Good for 3 days. We've reached the end of the taxi ride at a big canal, but I've got time to slip in a few more tips. Arriving by train is a great way to come, but the station is about 1.5 kilometers away from the market square, so you could take a public bus or taxi, especially with luggage, or you could walk 500 meters over to Lake Minnewater and begin your walking tour from that point. We have reached a very big canal with barges that can travel all the way up to the North Sea and into the ocean, connecting Bruges in a maritime highway that reaches the world. The barge comes out of the canal lock, the gates go up, traffic resumes, and we can start walking along this beautiful park next to the canal, looking for windmills. 4 sturdy windmills dominate the view on this stretch of the city ramparts, which during the Middle Ages had been a defensive wall around the town. All that's left now are hills for the windmills. As early as the 13th century, the sails of mills turned in the wind here, and by the 16th century, as many as 30 windmills could be counted, mostly milling grain for bakers who used it to make bread. Along with the windmills, you will discover a beautiful park along the canal, a popular destination for walking and bicycling, designed in the English landscape style, where you can enjoy walking, cycling, or picnicking on 7 kilometers of the city ramparts. Leaving the ramparts, we arrive at Kammerstraat, one of the main streets that runs through this district called Sint-Anna, or St. Anne. With its working-class cottages and green corners, it epitomizes tranquil Bruges. Take a leisurely stroll through these streets and let the serenity sink in. We are far from the tourist center. The imposing domed church of the English convent is a well-preserved and walled complex that's almost 4 centuries old and still active today. This Sint-Anna district is a welcome relief from the busyness of all those exciting activities in the historic center. A place that you see locals pedaling around and kids on their way to school. The other great street of Sint-Anna district is Langestraat, a road mostly for locals, so you are not going to see touristic shops here, but there are some nice little bars and cafes, intriguing little side lanes with houses, and stores for the local people. We are getting off the beaten track and away from the touristic center. This is where the real people live. The workers who are in the shops and leading tours, the waiters in your restaurant, perhaps the parents of those workers who have settled here in a comfortable neighborhood, shopping in the local supermarket. Let the serene atmosphere sink in. Catch a breath of fresh air away from the excitement of the center city. So if you really want to get behind the scenes and learn all about Bruges, it takes a few days. Don't be in a rush when you're here. It's such a wonderful place. The center is fantastic, and these fringe neighborhoods are also quite rewarding. As you come back into the town center, you will find more of those wonderful restaurants, beautiful canals, and amazing sights. We're going to take you on a boat ride tour through the picturesque canals of a fairy tale city that was built on water, getting a special angle enjoying these unique sights from water level. It's such a popular activity that nearly every visitor does it, but you can beat the crowd by starting early or late in the day. There are 5 different boat companies, each with their own separate loading dock, clustered near the central market square of town, easy to find them. They all take the same route and charge the same price for the same 30-minute itinerary.
So, welcome everyone on the boat on this lovely day today. So my name is Alan, I'm going to be your guide for the next 30 to 35 minutes. So in front of us we start immediately with one of the symbols of Bruges, is the Belfry Tower, 83 meters in height, 366 steps to the top. 47 bells you have hanging there with a total weight of 27 tons. Little information on the canals of Bruges. We have 16 kilometers inside of Bruges. We use 5 for the tour. Water is between 1 and 3 meters deep, and there's plenty of fish in here. We have carps, eel, piranhas, all different kinds. In front of us, the oldest bridge of Bruges from the 12th century. It's called the May Bridge, and it's ready to collapse any day now. Every time we pass that bridge, we are lucky people.
The canals are lined with a mix of medieval and Renaissance-style houses, adorned with unique architectural features. It seems like no two buildings are alike. While the boat gently glides along, you're treated to these breathtaking views of centuries-old buildings, and passing some of the approximately 80 bridges of the city. The boat ride is a relaxing, scenic, and educational experience, and while it might seem like a very touristic thing to do, which it is, of course, it's for tourists. You don't see any locals aside from the guides riding around in these boats, but this is one of those almost mandatory activities that you want to enjoy when you're visiting Bruges. You get to see the town from a special perspective that you just don't get when you're walking around in the streets.
See, there is our College of Europe. There's only 1 year specialization in there, minimum of 15,000 euros to get admitted. So here they form the future politicians and economists of Europe.
Higher education is quite important to this city, which has 4 universities, including 2 applied science universities and the United Nations University Institute of Regional Studies. So in many ways, while Bruges looks to be a very old town, it's also quite modern and up to date. While the buildings look like something out of the Middle Ages, many of them are more recent, from the 16th and 17th centuries, and there has been a lot of renovation and reconstruction to keep them in good shape. Like this work from a high-tech jackhammer rebuilding the old cobblestone pavings. Even if you were here on a windy day, the waters of the canal are always smooth, with soothing sounds of the water, the gentle motion of the boat, and calming atmosphere. It's a perfect way to relax and take in the beauty of Bruges at a leisurely pace. As we turn into one of the side canals, we pass by what had been the College of the English Jesuits, and then it became a primary school, and now it's closed for renovation. At the end of this canal, we reach Van Eyckplein, with its memorial to Jan van Eyck, who lived in Bruges for the last 12 years of his life, one of the most important painters in the history of art. You can find one of his great masterpieces here in the Groningen Museum, the Madonna and Child. This Van Eyckplein, or plaza, is a beautiful space with outdoor restaurants and a view of the canal. This was photographed separately on my walking tour because during the boat ride you do not get off the boat, you stay on board for the 30 minutes. All the more reason to spend a few days in Bruges so that you'll have time to walk around and see all of these important, beautiful sights. Canals played an essential role in the glorious history of Bruges, which became one of the wealthiest cities in all of Europe during the Middle Ages, because its canals and rivers enabled Bruges to become a trading and economic superpower during its golden age, which lasted for several hundred years, from the 13th century through the 15th century. In those days, Bruges was the center of a trading network called the Hanseatic League that was connected with all of Europe's main cities. Back in those days, during the 14th and 15th century, Bruges was both an important manufacturing center and a trading center. There were 50,000 workmen here who found employment in the manufacture of cloth, processing wool from England into high-quality fabric, which was then exported. Even more important to the economy was the role of Bruges as a trading center, importing and exporting goods from all over Europe. Hemp from Holland, Spanish skins and hides, Italian silks, cloths of Flanders and the wines of France, Portugal and Greece, iron and hardware from Germany, and many other kinds of manufactured articles brought into Bruges and then exported, with taxes and profits taken with every transaction. The city had banks, agents, and consuls of all the principal nations. In 1456, it was said that no less than 150 foreign ships came into the docks of Bruges on a single day.
On the corner next to the hotel is the Spanish house. We used to have generals living here. Nowadays it's a paradise for the beer lovers. We have about 3,600 different kinds of Belgian beer.
There's no doubt Belgians are beer lovers. As the guide just claimed, there are 3,600 different kinds of Belgian beer, and the country has over 400 breweries. They do drink quite a lot of beer at 74 liters per capita on average each year, but Belgium is not in the top 10 of beer consumption per capita. Number one are the Czechs at 184 liters per capita per person. Austria, 98 liters. Lithuania, Romania, Poland, Estonia, Germany, Spain, they're all right up there. But Belgians certainly do love their beer. You'll find it everywhere, and it is delicious. There is an open-air market along the banks of Dever Canal that happens every day with some arts and crafts and antiques, clothing, and miscellaneous items. At the end of the boat ride, you're only a few blocks away from this outdoor park with its attractive market, so by all means, come back here on foot and take a closer look. On a Bruges map, we can see the route that we've taken so far, shown in that red line, along the canals, and the remaining route that we've got to go. That tower rises from the Church of Notre Dame. It's the tallest structure in town, and it's the third tallest brick tower in the world. At 115 meters or 379 feet, the church is also famous for its statue by Michelangelo depicting the Madonna and Child. You'll be walking over many bridges in your visit, but only on the boat ride can you go underneath them. Boniface Bridge is one of the most scenic and photographed. Bruges became rich in the Middle Ages because of these canals, which provided that watery highway for transporting all of the merchandise that Bruges was importing and then exporting, trading throughout Europe. However, in the early 15th century, the main river and harbor began to silt up, filled with mud, and this prevented the ships from getting into Bruges, choking off its connections with all of Europe. This was one of the biggest factors that led to the decline and collapse of Bruges as an economic power. There were several other causes for that decline of Bruges, including the political problem with the Emperor Maximilian, who they had imprisoned. But when the emperor was released, he took his revenge on Bruges by moving his royal court to Antwerp and taking the business with him. Another problem was the breakup of the Hanseatic Trading League, and then America was discovered, which brought about a big change in the method of commerce throughout Europe. And there was also a decline in the Flemish clothworking industry. This manufacturing of textiles had been a big source of revenue. All of these problems combined to take away the economy of Bruges and transform it from one of the richest cities of Europe to one of the poorest. But that's why Bruges was never modernized and remained intact as a beautifully preserved medieval city. There are 250 swans in Bruges that are well taken care of by the government and have become one of the beloved symbols of the city. This is the place where you'll always find the biggest gathering of those lovely white birds. We have arrived at the end of the canal because here it reaches a barrier called the Lockhouse that connects it to the Minnewater Lake on the other side. So the tour boats turn around and return the same way that they came. At this end of the canal, we pass a very important site called the Beheenhof. This was a residence for devout women, a type of institution that was found throughout Belgium and the Netherlands to provide secure housing for single ladies. It's open to the public for free during the day, so you can walk in and enjoy these beautiful park-like surroundings. It's one of the biggest green spaces in the whole city, now functioning primarily as a convent for Benedictine nuns. Next, we pass a beer museum, which is the city's only brewery. They offer public tours and they have an outdoor beer terrace. These open-air boats provide great visibility and are very comfortable as long as you don't stand up going under a bridge. There are a handful of outdoor restaurants at this part of the harbor, and behind them the St. John's Hospital Museum with its collection of masterpiece paintings by Hans Memling, right next to the Church of Notre Dame. As we cruise past the big church, we arrive at the back of the Grootshuysen Museum. Built in the 15th century as the mansion of a wealthy nobleman, now it's an important museum, housing a collection from the 15th to the 19th century of lace, furniture, porcelain, glassworks, statues, paintings, tapestries, old books, manuscripts, weapons, and more. It's great how the boat gives us some views of hidden parts of buildings that you don't normally see if you're walking on the streets. In some places, you get to look into people's backyards and inside the windows of houses. As we wind down that half-hour ride, let me share a few tips for you to get the most out of your boat ride. They only take cash. Current price is €15. They don't take reservations unless you're a big group over 25 people. If riding in the middle of a warm day, bring along a hat and sunscreen to protect you from the sun. Best seats for taking pictures are towards the front or the back. Schedules vary depending on the season and the boat company, but generally they run from 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. Best to get on as early as possible. You might have to line up, but there are departures every 15 to 20 minutes. Don't make noise while the guide is talking, and if you were pleased with his presentation, give him a nice tip.
At the end of our little adventure on the canals of Bruges, I hope you liked what you saw and also the explanation of your guide. For the rest, everyone, have a nice day in Bruges. Lots of things to do and to see. Enjoy it. And thank you, everyone, for your attention.
The city of Bruges in Belgium has so many well-preserved medieval and neo-Gothic buildings that the entire town is like an outdoor museum. And you can go into several actual museums to enjoy fascinating art, sculpture, and history. The Gothic churches also contain many great works of art enclosed in the spectacular old architecture, with a statue by Michelangelo and brightly colored stained glass windows all around you. Later, we shall visit inside the magnificent cathedral, then step into a 19th century classroom. Some museums are located right along the canals. Our first visit brings us inside the Groningen Museum with its priceless collection of Flemish masters and other Belgian visual arts covering 6 centuries. Starting out with the most wonderful and important painting in Bruges, The Madonna and Child by Van Eyck, the great artist who lived in Bruges in the last 12 years of his life. Filled with brilliant colors and fine details, it depicts Mary and baby Jesus, flanked by 2 saints and an official of the church. He's that old man in the white robe who's included because he paid Van Eyck to make the painting. The minute details and architecture of the room and windows are depicted with high degree of realism. Notice that little Jesus is holding a bouquet of flowers and a green parrot. Paintings by the Flemish masters are the main reason why many visitors come to the Groningen Museum, including such artists as Hans Memling and Hieronymus Bosch, represented here with his Last Judgment in his typical tortured figures and bizarre monsters. Various important artists were attracted to Bruges during the 14th through 16th centuries because the city was so wealthy, with many rich merchants and religious institutions that were ready to purchase the paintings. These artists devoted a great deal of attention to high-quality materials and careful techniques, often involving oil painting, which had just been perfected during that time. So these works created 500 years ago have retained their extremely high quality and enormous value to this very day. The museum also has some modern art. The museum is located next to a charming little park that was once the private garden of a manor house, but now is open to the public. A great place to relax and take in the beautiful surroundings. The park is child-friendly and baby carriages are allowed. It's a popular spot for picnics. Also known for its picturesque humpback pedestrian St. Boniface Bridge. The park is also next to the Grootshuizen Museum, which is housed in a lavish 15th century palace that looks something like a castle. The courtyard is open to the public for free and has some wonderful buildings around it in various styles from the Middle Ages through the late period. It's so photogenic you will be compelled to take lots of pictures. With the right angle, you can also get the canal and park into your background. An architectural gem blending medieval and neo-Gothic styles, the palace was built to impress, and it's been doing so in style ever since. It originally served as the opulent residence of a powerful lord who was patron of the arts. Now it's a museum showcasing a captivating collection of artwork and artifacts spanning from the 15th through the 19th centuries. In the 15th century, the building was expanded from a store into a luxury mansion, and there's a painting on display of Louis, one of the early lords of the manor. Some restoration work was done in the 19th century, and a recent project concluded in 2018 with major renovations of the interior and outside. Among the treasures is the terracotta portrait of Charles V, who was born in nearby Ghent and went on to become Holy Roman Emperor, one of the most powerful people in Europe. History is brought to life by more than 600 exhibits, each of which has its own story to tell. From majestic tapestries to elegant wooden sculptures, old books and manuscripts, an 18th century dinner table, Chinese porcelain, and period furniture. Among many religious items, there are Madonnas and silver chalices for the Mass. A model of an old sailing ship reminds us of the rich maritime history. From the upper floor, you have a lovely view down into the lobby area, and then step outside onto the balcony. From this romantic perspective, you get a dramatic view of the photogenic surroundings. including a bird's eye view of St. Boniface Bridge and a gabled mansion. Then on the right side, notice how close the Church of Our Lady is. It's right next door, which makes an excellent place to visit after leaving the museum. That belfry above the Church of Our Lady is the world's third tallest brick tower at 115 meters, looking up at the highest point of the city. The church dates back to the 13th century, built in the Gothic style with cross-rib vaulting on the ceiling, and later Baroque decoration. The most important reason this church is so famous is the sculpture in the side chapel, because it was the only statue by Michelangelo that ever left Italy during his lifetime. It was originally intended for the Siena Cathedral, but Michelangelo was never paid for that Siena project, so he canceled that work and sold the statue to a couple of merchants from Bruges, who then donated it to the church. This led to 20 years of legal headaches for Michelangelo, who was sued for not completing that Siena project. There are double aisles along both sides of the nave, which is 25 meters wide and a length of 60 meters. The church is not just a museum of art, it's also a living place of Catholic worship where you could attend a service. You can walk into a couple of the small side chapels where the wealthy could pray in private. Rich people paid to build these chapels in order to help them get to heaven, which was a good moneymaker for the church. You'll see beautiful artworks incorporated into the structure of the building, such as these Baroque-styled confessionals, and a side chapel with stained glass windows and Gothic ribbed vaulting. In the choir space behind the high altar, there are tombs of Charles the Bold and his daughter, the Duchess Mary. These gilded bronze effigies of father and daughter repose at full length on polished slabs of black stone. Both are crowned, and Charles is represented in full armor, wearing the decoration of the Order of the Golden Fleece. The dress and ornamentation of the bronzed Mary is consistent with the Gothic style. These are among the most impressive tombs in 16th century Europe, in a prominent location in this major church because Charles and Mary were so important to the history of Bruges and the region. After their death, Mary's husband, Maximilian I, became Holy Roman Emperor and incorporated Bruges into his empire. There was a modest church on this site already in the 9th century, but construction of the present church began in the 13th century and took 200 years. The Gothic style was later enhanced with the Baroque ornamentations. The church is beautiful from the outside, but as you've seen, it's worth going in to enjoy the incredible artworks that you will see with the stained glass and Michelangelo and everything else, for the slight fee of €8 unless you have the Bruges Museum card. Just across the street we have the Hospital of St. John, which is one of the oldest hospital buildings in Europe and contains some major artworks inside, especially famous for the works of Hans Memling. Just entering the building from the street is another adventure in itself and a reminder about the incredible medieval architecture of Bruges. It's like walking through a time tunnel built in brick. We emerge into a lovely courtyard with those old buildings around it, like a plaza, almost like a public park in the middle of the city, and then the entrance to the museum is just on the right. Hans Memling was a 15th century master of hyper-realistic scenes who lived and worked in Bruges and created his most important masterpieces there. The museum also has an authentically preserved hospital pharmacy. You can imagine how the nuns in their rustling black and white robes processed the herbs into medicine. The room served as a pharmacy, laboratory, and nursing room. Anyone who needed care or a place to sleep was welcome there, regardless of origin or class. The pharmacy will take you on a journey into history. You are also welcome to walk around the gardens and courtyards of the building to complete your visit. It's located on one of the main canals, which is a popular route for the canal boat tours. Another place you would enjoy visiting is the Folk Museum, where you learn all about the ordinary daily life in Bruges in the 19th and early 20th centuries. This nostalgic museum is housed in what had been single-room homes for poor people, renovated now with a garden courtyard and covered walkways. As you walk through the series of rooms, it feels like you've entered a typical 19th century village with its shops, such as this shoemaker with a realistic depiction of the racks of shoes and authentic tools in this cobbler's workshop. A grocery shop has a large assortment of grains and seeds in open bins, ready to be scooped. The pharmacy has items from a real store in Bruges that was created first in 1863. When it closed in 1975, the museum purchased its contents. The hats displayed in this workshop were donated by 3 milliners based in Bruges, who took direct measures of customers' heads. It looks like you can walk into this tailor shop and get measured for a custom-made suit. A popular exhibit is the 19th century classroom, furnished with authentic desks, chairs, and chalkboards. Toys and games and old sleds are featured, with some items from the 1950s and others much earlier, including some small models of clay figures. Confectionaries would make their own candies from sugars and chocolates and customized molds. Their authentic equipment is part of the display. The craft of barrel maker or cooper was very important in Bruges, where there were once dozens of breweries that had to store their beer. You'll enter a Flemish living room which combined a kitchen with daily activities, breakfast on the table, and dishes piling up in the sink. Upstairs has space for special exhibits. This one is about living rooms of the 1950s. The museum is a great place to learn about the daily life of Bruges in the past. When finished, drop into their Black Cat Cafe for some refreshments. The only problem with your visit is the museum is not in the town center. It's 1 kilometer away from the market square. But while in the neighborhood, there's another fascinating thing to see, an ancient church, one of the hidden treasures of Bruges. Consecrated in 1429, the chapel was inspired by the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, with an ancient architectural style predating Gothic and Romanesque. A dramatic altar features many skulls serving as memento mori, reminders of death. Originally constructed by the Adorns family and now 600 years and 17 generations later, it's still owned by descendants of the same family, in a complex that includes several other buildings and a small museum. That family came from Genoa in Italy and settled in Bruges about the year 1300. Through clever trading and strategic marriages, they rose to high ranks of power and made a vast fortune they used to take a pilgrimage trip to Jerusalem and come back to build this complex, which also has a small, lush garden in the courtyard, open to the public for a slight admission fee, and well worth it. From here, we are walking back into the center of Bruges to visit the cathedral. A lovely way to approach it is along Mariastraat, and then on a side lane that will bring you to the outside of the back of the church, the Gothic masterpiece of St. Salvator's Cathedral, in English Saint Saviour, whose tower reaches 99 meters high. Upon entering, you will be impressed by the enormous space of the interior, 100 meters long, greatest width at 52 meters, and ceiling 28 meters high. With a forest of massive columns outlining the nave and aisles, creating intricate spaces that are delightful to wander through as you look all around and above at the cross-rib vaulted ceiling. It's the oldest parish church in Bruges, with a history that goes back to the mid-7th century when it was a wooden structure, replaced by this Gothic marvel constructed between the 12th and early 16th centuries. Many works of art have been added later, such as this fine altar in the Baroque style with a meandering labyrinth pattern on the floor. You can also walk around behind the altar, which is just as beautiful as the front, in that same Baroque style, decorated with many beautiful statues. It's an active Episcopal church offering Mass daily. A rich collection of Flemish tapestries decorates the sides of the altar and around to the choir in front, with 2 rows of wooden choir stalls for seating of the clergy and the chorus. Altogether, there are about 40 altars in the various chapels, along with 120 paintings and various gold and silver objects, many of which are in the church museum. The crossing where the transepts, nave, and altar come together is the most spacious and highest part of the church, offering a splendid experience to enjoy its many angles and perspectives. As we walk back into the nave, you'll notice on the left side that wooden pulpit was made in 1605, and at the far end there is the rood screen, the black and white collection of sculptures and architecture, columns and arches surmounted by a statue of God, and above that the organ, placed here in 1682. The rood screen originally stood as a barrier between the nave and the choir, and was moved here in the 1930s. It's a great place to take pictures, and the best approach here is to walk all around and get different angles, looking up, looking to the side aisles, looking at the windows, close-ups, wide angles, and video. Every place you turn, there's another beautiful photo opportunity. This church was not originally built to be a cathedral. It was granted this status in 1834 because the previous cathedral in a different part of Bruges was destroyed during the French Revolution by French iconoclasts who were not fans of religious buildings. The ambulatory behind the altar is one of the most interesting parts of the building, with its curved aisle and chapels and stained glass radiating out from it. It is really quite dramatic. It's worth stepping inside several of these chapels to appreciate the artworks they are filled with, especially the colorful, radiant stained glass. The architecture of the church is what's called Brabant Gothic, found throughout Flanders, but the ambulatory is a later style of flamboyant Gothic, added 2 centuries after the church was built. Occasionally, restoration work took place, and recently the cathedral was completely restored between 1987 and 2017. The cathedral has an excellent website with lots of history and information, and there's a virtual tour you can walk through the entire space, and a greeting that welcomes everyone, regardless of origin, religion, or philosophical belief. And they have occasional music performances. Bruges will keep you so busy with all of these wonderful churches, museums, and many other sites that you'll want to spend at least a couple of days here. Upon exiting the cathedral, you'll be right on the main street of town, Steenstraat, to continue your explorations. To learn more about Bruges and prepare for your visit, take a look at the official website of the Tourist Information Office, loaded with helpful information. And there's a website for the Museums of Bruges where you can learn about buying the museum card and find out more about the many museums of Bruges. We frequently upload new movies, so please subscribe to our channel and click that little alarm bell so you'll be notified. And if you enjoyed the movie, how about a thumbs up? And we always welcome comments down below. Or if you have questions about the destination, make note and we'll answer them. Thanks for watching.